Welcome to the Quick 10 podcast, brought to you by Trac, focusing on all things FedCon and cyber defense from different perspectives and different personalities, all in 10-ish minutes. Here's your host, Derek White.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Quick 10 podcast. I am your host, Derek White from Beryllium, InfoSec, and Trac, which is our flagship product to support federal contractors and the defense industrial base. Today, we are going to talk about a very important topic, but also if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, make sure to check out previous episodes. We've been doing these for quite a while now on a lot of different topics. We're going to probably overlap a couple of those today from a high level. So if anything of interest, get your ears to perk up, then make sure to check out previous episodes. If you're watching on YouTube, you can follow us there as well and check out future episodes. And then everything on our website, quicktrac.com, you can register and get alerted for future and all previous recordings. So today I am joined by good friend, longtime friend, Kyle Lai, president and CISO and lead CCA at KLC Consulting, who's an authorized C3PAO. Kyle, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We see each other throughout the year at conferences, and we've done a lot of these live and in person. We release them throughout the year, kind of put people in the hot seat, if you will. And you and I have never been able to sync up and actually do these in person. So we're doing the old school way of, and old school is air quoted there, old school way of a virtual face-to-face here. So good to see you, as always. The world is a little different than back in the day when I met you, probably 6-7 years ago. Who knows how long that's been?
Oh, yeah. Things have changed quite a bit.
Yeah, it has changed. The world itself has changed, but also this industry has also changed. So
absolutely.
We're going to get into an important topic, but to kind of timestamp this a little bit, it is the end of 2025. We're in December. The CMMC rule is now a thing. It can be a requirement in solicitations for new contracts. C3PAOs are continuing to have more and more of them be authorized. Assessors are getting more trained. There's still a lot of things to learn, a lot of things to understand. There's still a lot of people who don't have these contracts yet that are looking to pursue them. So that's an important topic. But today we are going to spend this short conversation on the C3PO experience. So it's going to be both on the prep side. I want to make sure we talk about the prep a little bit, not into all the details of some of our previous podcasts that do get into strategies and different nuances within the prep experience before you're ready, because you want to make sure you're ready for your assessment, but also get into, shopping for a C3PAO, going to market. What type of C3PO should you be looking for? What kind of questions you should be asking? So you were nice enough to send me some questions. I'm gonna quiz you on a couple of those and see how you answer those. But then also realistic timelines. So timelines is a big thing. We're seeing some crazy stuff. We're going to talk about that at the end as well. So let's start right at the beginning with the prepping. So it's those things that you see organization. If you could shake down an organization and say, make sure you know this stuff when it comes to what to prep for. Walk through that a little bit before we get into some of those interview questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the preparation, the OSC themselves, they do need to understand the actual process. The actual process from the beginning to the end. It's about I would say in the short term, about 2 to 3 months. We always be a little bit conservative, and we want to say plan for 3 months minimum. Right. And that's from day one, we start requesting the information to the day that we issue the certificate to you. That's about 3 months. And what consists of the process is that in the very beginning, there's going to be what we call the pre-assessment. Then there's the assessment phase. Then there's the post-assessment. Post-assessment means that we are preparing for the results and upload to the DoD and the SPRS. But in the very beginning, you want to do the preparation, right? First of all, before you do the preparation, you have to understand that the C3POs, there are quite a few out there. They are very busy, as you said. So you have to prepare to talk to a few people, a few C3PAOs, and we'll get into some of the questions. But in the preparation phase, what we call the pre-assessment, we as a C3PAO, we will send out some questions to ask you after the day you sign the contract, right? We will say, try to understand your environment and also your size and the complexity and the number of sites that we need to go visit, right? And during this discussion, then we will be able to actually let you know how long the assessment will take, right? And during this pre-assessment, we will look for your environment, your also for your the SSP, System Security Plan, your CUI scope and boundary diagram, network diagram, and also your asset inventory. And that's the minimum information that we need, usually 4 weeks before the assessment starts, the actual assessment interview week. And that is for us to check to see if you are ready for the assessment phase. What we are not doing is we are not actually reading the SSP in detail. We just want to verify that your SSP is not 20 pages, right? If it's 20 pages, then we can say that you are not ready, and that we don't want to waste anyone's time, and to let you go back to prepare a little bit more so you can be ready and to go for the real assessment. If we determine that you are ready, there is no guarantee that you will pass. We just say you are ready for the next phase, the assessment planning phase. That's when we will discuss with you about the actual interview plan, request additional information, all the information, policies, procedures, artifacts, screenshots, everything. We want to have that about 2 weeks before the actual assessment interview week, right? So our assessors will have a way to prepare before the assessment. At least the minimum is 1 week before. And during the assessment, we will work with you and work out the logistics in terms of how many sites that we need to go. I mean, we have worked with very small sites, very small organizations, 3 to 5 people, remote, all the way to very large. This is public information. Microsoft, we have conducted Microsoft mixed reality division, and that's a very large and complex environment, go to multiple sites. So we have to plan for that. So it's good to just work out the details in the beginning. So we will, and usually if you are not too complex, we can get everything done within 1 week, or the assessment interview done within 1 week. After we are done with the interview, then we'll take another, if there are, the process that if there are additional information we need from you, you will have additional 10 days, 10 business days to provide that information to us, right? And with that information, that we'll write up the results and upload to what we call the DoD EMAS system, and that information will transfer to the SPRS system, and that will be your CMMC results. Just so that the audience here, OSC here, that you are aware, there are 3 different outcomes, 3 possible outcomes from the assessment. One is that you got 110, perfect score, you pass, you get a CMMC final status. Second is that you have some deficiencies and that they are allowed under CMMC, you will get the CMMC conditional status. You will have 180 days to address all the remediation caused back to be able to do what we call the program closeout assessment and convert the assessment from conditional to final. The third one is you did not pass. You have some deficiencies that are not allowed under CMMC. So with that, you will not get a pass. You'll have to do it over, but maybe in the shorter time frame. But currently, this may change, but currently CyberAB allow us to convert the actual assessment to a mock assessment, so no records will be uploaded to what we call the EMAS, DoD EMAS. So you have that option. So you don't get a fail score reported to the DoD. Right now, they don't want to see a fail. So that's just so we said a little bit of give you some information so you know how to prepare. So the worst case scenario, hopefully we'll never get there, but that is just one of the outcomes.
Yeah, no, yeah, that is true. So there are, you said it best, I think, too. It's when a C3PO says you're ready, does not mean that you're ready to pass. It means that you're ready to find out and not waste anybody's time. That's one thing I think that got glossed over for a couple of years was C3POs can't, in fact, go into an assessment knowing that you're not ready and waste your time and still collect that money. They are to follow a process, which is the CAP CMMC assessment process. And as that process evolves and has updates, then all C3POs have to follow that process, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a CMMC assessment process, what we call CAP.
Yep.
Yeah, just an additional note that you really want to make sure that you have someone within your organization or someone outside of your organization help you prepare. Mm-hmm. It's not the time for you to do DIY without knowing all the details of CMMC. And we have seen a couple of cases, hopefully we don't see it anymore, but a couple of cases that did not go too well because they did not actually have somebody who are really knowledgeable with the CMMC to help them with the preparation. And you don't want to actually do this testing, go through this. You don't want to provide us and look for your evidence, look for how to actually provide the evidence for the first time during the real certification assessment. You want to do some practice before the real assessment.
For sure. Well, you hit on this a little bit, so I do want to move into the next step here of this conversation is the OSC, the organizations who want to get certified are very much encouraged to interview multiple C3PAOs.
Absolutely.
Build a relationship, that's good, but that also you want to work with C3PAOs who are going to understand your business. Not every C3PAO has worked with every single type of organization, and you highlighted there's a difference between multiple locations and a longer interview process and more complexity versus a small business who has one location, 9 people in scope of CUI, and very clean, prepped, ready to go program that should be more efficient because it's human being time at the end of the day when it comes down to the actual interview assessment time, not the whole process of start to finish. So questions when you ask C3POs are very important. You provided a couple that you've seen, and I can't go through all of them. So I'm gonna. And this part is true. You do not know which ones I'm going to ask you, so I'm going to ask you a couple of these.
If I may, I probably just want to mention that the industry is going to be very important. And if you are a large organization, you want to make sure the C3PO have experience, the actual lead assessor and the assessor have experience working with the size of your company. If you are very small, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But if you are a Fortune, like medium, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, or Fortune 500 companies, that you want to make sure that the lead assessor have the experience dealing with a large organization, because the process, everything, the controls, they're going to be very different than very small environment.
Yeah. And that's good because some of these questions that you provided do have some specifics to, if you're an OSC, I'll throw the first one out here. It's relevant to us, but it's relevant to this industry. And there's been updates to, say, FAQs and such too. But let's talk about virtual desktop infrastructure, VDIs. So one of the questions you submitted here is, what is your view on VDIs as adequately setting the edge for an assessment boundary? Not the importance of what that means as a whole, but how do you, the C3PO that I'm talking to, view that?
Right. And we get this question a lot. And you definitely want to make sure that C3PO understand VDI, because there are and the reason, just a little bit background, the reason they're asking, because different C3POs may have a different interpretation on what is considered VDI and what is acceptable. So DoD CIO office, they have produced what they call the CMMC FAQ, the frequent asked questions FAQ document. Now, right as of today, this is a version 3, but they have a little bit more information clarifying what is considered VDI. And then you want to make sure that the C3PO is not just making up their own way of determining what is VDI, but go back to the CMMC FAQ. But just to answer your question, the VDI is really focusing on what is what we call the KVM, the keyboard, video, and mouse movement only, right? There should not be anything transferred over to the laptop. If you are using a laptop, there should not be anything. There is no CUI, nothing transfer over to the laptop. The laptop should not be allowed to do any store, transmit, or process of CUI. There cannot be any download of the files, prints, copy and paste to the laptop. So if you meet all these requirements, then you are considered you meet all the requirements to be qualified as a VDI solution. Then hopefully the C3PO will give you that answer as well.
Well, that's part of the reason why some of the assessment evidence and what gets conducted is testing, right? Because the documentation might read that they send you in advance, like you mentioned, might read, this looks great, that sounds awesome, and then you go to test it, and if that user that you're testing can download a file to the device, or they can copy and paste to and from the VDI, and these things that get tested for to test that boundary turn out not to be true, then we have an emotional situation there during that assessment, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And we usually will prep the OSCs to saying that we believe that you have the VDI solution. However, as a C3PAO, we are going to verify that you have the correct configuration on your laptop, right, to prove it to us, or VDI solution, whatever it is, in the laptop or firewall VPN, just to show us that you have the proper setup and that you can prove that nothing is copied or paste or download or be able to print from your laptop. And it's all configured that way, whether it's Citrix or other solutions. Yeah, just show it to us, and we'll be able to actually determine that if it's a true VDI, then we're good, then we will keep the laptop out of the scope.
Yeah, and there's a lot of organizations that that's not their expertise. They're not networking, VDI, technology experts. And so when they make decisions on their prepping and their implementation, and someone says it does X, then that's the whole reason for CMMC to exist, is that documentation and I've got it, I'm good, isn't going to work anymore. So that's good to hear. You touched on another point, which goes into the next question I want to ask. So this was also not planned, but thank you for the transition.
Sure.
Do you adhere to the C3PAO forum published assessment interpretation? So that goes along with, maybe talk about that for a minute, but that C3PAOs don't get to make up things. They don't get to just say, well, I say so because I'm a lead CCA. There's forums out there. There's knowledge bases, if you will, to help help interpret some things. Can you walk through that a little bit and what that means?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually part of the C3PO stakeholder forum. I'm on the board. And we do publish some of the interpretation if there are some things that are common questions, but it's not being interpreted or not being answered by DoD, then we will put together some position papers and have some interpretation, and we have a number of C3PAOs work together, and we will kind of vote on the ideas and positions. So that being said, there are, other than the C3PO stakeholder forum or interpretation positions, there are also the CMMC FAQ that published by the C3, not the C3PO, but the DoD CIO office, right? CyberAB, they also have, sometimes will publish their positions on some of, I wish they do write it down though. Sometimes it's never written down, but they do sometimes publish their information, their positions on their town hall. So their town hall is all recorded. So I will say, other than the C3PAO stakeholder forum interpretation to positions, make sure that C3PAO understand that use the official, also use the official FAQ, their positions. But when everything fall apart, just always go back to the 32 CFR Part 170, the actual rule, because that's going to be something that's really stand up to the test.
Yeah, and again, back to your earlier one of your earlier comments too about having expertise. If you don't have it in house, and it's even if you believe you do have it in house, some of these things are worth knowing, not believing. That's kind of an old adage here. Is that make sure that these gray areas are black and white as much as possible, and do some mock assessment, do some prep work, reach out to some people, pay for their time to give their interpretation, and have some confidence into your answers. The next one is a fun one. I want to go through this one. I'd probably maybe do two more here, and then we'll get into the timeline thing. So, do you consider all CUI to be restricted to U.S. persons only?
No, because there are there are quite a few different types of CUI, and every official type of CUI there's a related regulation rules associated with how that type of CUI should be managed. And the CUI, there is something called the CUI registry, and the NARA, the National Archive, NARA, they do have a list. I think it's 130 something type of CUI. And you should, if you're interested, you should just go to look up the CUI registry. In the CMMC world, DoD, if you just search for, there's a DoD website that listed out the CUI registry. That will give you an understanding in terms of what is associated with it and what are regulated. The general CUI, it doesn't mean that the non-US citizen or non-US person cannot touch it. Just to give you an example, because US, we sell the F-16, F-18, F-35 to different countries, right? And different countries, these fighter jets, they are not managed they are not managed or serviced by Lockheed or Boeing, right? Because they have to train up the local people in a local country. One of the company, there will be a subcontractor of Boeing or Lockheed. They will be the one that service these airplanes, right? And those people, usually they are not US citizen, right? Yeah. So, but they are handling a lot of the CUI information. So it all depends on the type of information that is marked, right? And the DoD usually have the responsibility to mark what is considered. Usually you have a CUI / then there's the ITAR or something. If it's ITAR, then you have to be a little bit more careful. If it's ITAR, that means US person or somebody with a license from the Department of State or Commerce to be able to handle the ITAR information. They need to have the export control license, right? But that doesn't mean that have to be a US person. But if you have, hopefully, I have never seen this, like no foreign. But if you have something that's no foreign and a CUI, then yeah, it will have to be US person can touch it. No, there's not going to be any foreign personnel be able to actually touch that information. But that usually is very, very restricted. I have never seen one yet. Maybe it's more in the nuclear or some specific weapons, but I've never seen that yet because it may be a little bit too restrictive.
Yeah, no, that's good. So we'll wrap here with this: timelines, expectations. Again, end of the year 2025. If you're listening to this in 2026, it's probably still a mess when it comes to I'll give an example because this has happened a lot in the last 2 months, really last 6 weeks, probably, as this rule got closer and became a real thing, is the number of companies calling saying that their leadership team or their investors or something came to them and said, hey, we want to be and we're going to be certified in the next 30 days or 60 days. And the tough spot to be in when the powers that be say that. But there's realistic expectations there that even if you're ready, what does that look like? So for a couple minutes, talk about the world as it is today, maybe where you see it going when it comes to, hey, I want to interview C3POs and I want to get on someone's calendar. What's that looking like right now?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of these just within the last month. I think C3PO, we're very busy as of now. At least the ones that are a little bit more recognized, they are very busy, and companies, they want to get on these. They just want to get it because there are pressure from their management. Yeah, usually they say, "Can you do it by the end of the year, by the end of January?" But we usually have to let them know the reality is like you have to know that if you want to actually get it done, right? We talked a little bit earlier. If you actually wanted to get it done in January, we really need to have your information, all your information ready in December, like 4 weeks before, right? Are you ready to give us all that information? Some of them is like, no, we are actually still working on this and that. It's just like, yeah, you are not ready, right? So yeah, so that's the reality check. And also when we say go, and you have to also just to make sure that the documentation, the artifacts, all the people, when we are doing the assessment, you want to make sure that everyone is all hands on deck, be able to, all the required personnel have to be present during the assessment, because otherwise there'll be a delay. So you have to work out the vacation schedules and everything. So make sure that you work out all those logistics. But in terms of the reality right now, I think we are booked. I mean, at least for us, we are booked to like March and April timeframe. So they're a little bit of time, about 3-4 months out. But in terms of you just need to talk to a few C3PAOs. If we are not available, it doesn't mean that it's not other C3PAOs are not available. But you would just want to make sure that you talk to a few and then make sure you select the right one and be able to fit your time frame, because and you don't want to give yourself too tight of a time frame. If I say I have a contract RFP, I have to bid on, the award date is March 31st, right? Just an example, March 31st. You don't want to get it done. Yeah, we have to get it done by March 30th. Yeah, it's not going to work.
Yeah, not to mention if it's March 1st and you're trying to do it in 30 days and you find a C3PO who is bored sitting around and has all the time in the world, that's probably a red flag. They may have had a cancellation. Sure, that is true. But number one thing that you highlighted there, I think that's important, is you should be ready. You don't want to schedule and call up a Kyle at KLC and his team and say, hey, get the price, get the scope, stuff. And then because there's things like down payments that do happen, and you're getting on a schedule. You are a project at that point, and people only have so much time, and teams can be really big and really busy, and small teams can be more niche, like you said, and focus on specific categories and verticals and types. That's why it's important to interview, because not all C3PAOs are the same, and not all of them have the same capacity. So, if they come up with some free time, then great. But some of them have I know a ton of them, and so do you, that they won't even take on small businesses because they have way too many bigger, complex ones, and their team is only so big, and they've allocated resources for that and time. Mm-hmm. So some do a lot of small to medium-sized businesses because that's what they specialize in, and that's very, very important. Can't stress that enough. But if you are sitting here listening to this and your leadership team is telling you that you need to have this done in the next 60 days, and you haven't finished up your NIST Standard 171 and implementation compliance program with the appropriate evidence that Kyle has talked about multiple times already in this, short conversation, then buyer beware. You're going to end up on a schedule, and the C3PO, you might not find out that you weren't ready until you get there, and that's an expensive decision. So we don't want to do that. It's more of duplicate efforts than it is a cost thing. We don't want that. So
just be realistic and don't have a false start.
Yes, false starts are not good in any case, really in anything when it comes to business. So, all right, well, we'll wrap here. Thank you. Where can people go to learn more, talk to you, interview you, or even follow you when it comes to Kyle Lai and KLC?
Yeah, we definitely we have a website, klcconsulting.net, or just email us at cmmc@klcconsulting.net.
Perfect. And follow Kyle if you're a LinkedIn user. You're very active on there. You share really great information, great questions to really kind of get people engaged. Those are always very, very helpful. So thank you for that. And highly encourage you add KLC to your list of potential C3PAOs. Even if you're 12 months away, get to know who you want to use and be ready and schedule. So that's thank you for joining, Kyle. Really appreciate it. As always, if you are listening or watching, we have lots of episodes to come. We'll have Kyle on again for sure, hopefully in person, because we'll probably see each other at a couple conferences this year. Yes. But otherwise, thank you, Kyle. Stay sane, enjoy the holidays, and we will reconnect in 2026.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and make sure to subscribe to the Cuick 10 podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and check us out on YouTube as well. For more information about Trac, visit our website at www.cuicktrac.com. That's CUICKTRAC.com.